remember singing that song several years ago because it transports me to my childhood every time. I remember we were living in Taiwan. We had a small transistor radio, our connection to the United States. I'd ask my mom, "Hey, Mommy, what is a downtown?" Because that song is on again. And she answered, "A downtown is the life of a city." Songs can transport you to a different time, a different feeling, a different place. Dr. Elizabeth Helmuth Margulis is a Princeton music cognition researcher and author of Transported, the Everyday Magic of Musical Daydreams. She explains what happens in our brains when music takes us somewhere and why those musical daydreams may be more important than we think. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh,
Wonderful to be here after that last music interview.
yes, oh my gosh, I love this because we all are aware of what it is that you studied, but you actually put the science behind it. What was the seed that sparked your curiosity into music? And by the way, what is probably one of the most memorable musical experiences for you as a child?
Well, one of the really interesting things that we find about music is that we tend to love and have lots of personal memories for the music we listened to as a teenager. That's called the reminiscence bump. But we also have a secondary reminiscence bump for music from when our parents were teenagers. So what you turn on in, the kitchen while your kids are crawling around can seed this kind of lifelong set of really foundational memories.
Yeah, because I know if my parents I was listening to, and I was not the cool kid at school, I was like, "Do you know that Glenn Miller song?" They're like, "No." And this is in the 70s with disco. They're like, "What are you listening to Glenn Miller for?" And Nat King Cole, because that's what my parents listened to. But even younger than that, you as a child, you remember your parents took you to a performance of Handel's Messiah.
Yes, that's right. I didn't know that there's a long-standing tradition that when you get to the Hallelujah chorus and the King of Kings, that everyone stands, right? And this has been happening for hundreds of years. I thought that the music was just so powerful and overwhelming emotionally for people that they couldn't stay in their seats. And from that moment, I was just so curious about what could make all these grown-ups have such a profound reaction. And even though that was a bit of a misunderstanding, music does really have lots of important power in our lives. And it's been really interesting to use science to try to understand that.
Yeah, and you are connected to music far beyond just listening to it. You studied piano at the Peabody Conservatory, and you were curious about what happens in the mind when we listen to music. You took Minds, Brains, and Computers, a course at Johns Hopkins, and that sets you off onto another path.
Yeah, that's right. I was at a conservatory where, we were just supposed to practice all the time. In fact, I had to sneak away to take the class you just mentioned. I was told by my teacher I couldn't do it because I had to stay and just play the piano. But yeah, once I kind of got outside the conservatory's walls and saw that there were all these really cool tools in science that we might be able to use to answer questions I was having as a musician, it set me off on this career path.
You now run the Music Cognition Lab at Princeton University. In the time that we have, explain what that is.
So we use things like neuroimaging, behavioral research. So people come into our lab, we've got a sound attenuated booth, they'll listen to music, we'll ask them to do various tasks related to it, measure things about their responses, even things like their pupil dilation while listening, and try to understand what is happening underneath the hood to allow such powerful experiences.
Yeah, and there's so many different connections. Like for me, as a military brat, when I hear the national anthem, it takes me back to that little kid on the base. But it also, I'm connected to it because I love this country, right? I watched my dad and went through, life around the world as the American kid, someplace in some other country, and then here at home. So I have that connection to it. Transported the everyday magic of musical daydreams. Explain to us what a musical daydream is.
Yes, the book starts off with an example of a musical daydream in film. So if you've seen the movie La La Land, it ends actually with this giant musical daydream where a character ends up hearing Ryan Gosling's character, play a song that had been important to their relationship many years before. And we, as the viewers, are taken back through their whole romance. We kind of relive it with her. And when he stops playing, that whole daydream crumbles. So this is exactly what I mean when you're listening to music and you find yourself somewhere else, often immersed in a vivid memory or imagining.
Yeah, you also point to the reason why songs and music scores are so important in movies. It kind of supports that thought that you're talking about, and why a song can transport us, and those memories come with that vivid, as you say, sensory details. I mean, how many times have people been driving down the street and a song comes on, and then all of a sudden they're at their destination and they don't even remember getting there?
Exactly. Yes. And I think sometimes when that happens, we think that we messed up. So we didn't pay enough attention to the music or something like that. And one of the things that I'm arguing in the book is that when you find yourself transported in that way, that's actually a deeply musical experience. And there's all kinds of interesting connections we're finding between what's in the song and where you end up going in this daydream.
Yeah, okay, explain to me this. When you are in love with somebody, every love song comes on, you're like, oh, that's going to be our song at our wedding. But then when you break up with them, all of a sudden, every breakup song comes on.
Yeah, I think it's like the thing when you drive a Honda and then there's all the kinds of Hondas all over the road.
Yeah, yeah, you see them when you see them, right? Yeah.
But it is true that there is this thing of a couple defining song where, the same way certain musics can be really important to our sense of self and our identity of who we are as a person, certain songs can become important to our sense of our relationship and who we are in connection with another person.
So many times in our day-to-day lives, we say to somebody, get out of your head, get out of your head, be in the present, get out of your head. Daydreams are important. I catch myself when I'm coming out of them that it provides some sense of comfort. I can't put my finger on it, but it's almost a sense of comfort or a break from stress in the day.
That's right. And we find that this is the state brains tend to go into when you give them room to wander. And it's really important to functioning as a person and to mental health and to brain health. But yet we do less and less of it because we tend to kind of have screens and stimuli in front of our eyes all the time. So I look at music as a kind of last refuge for the daydream, where people's minds are still free to kind of go into this flowing state where you're making sense and story and narrative and meaning out of all the various things that are happening in your life.
Since the beginning of time that we have music on record, it seems like it has played so many different roles. Sometimes it's ritual, sometimes it's just entertainment. Other times, though, it's part of a therapeutic sense. So are you all actually looking at this to see where it can actually fit into some therapies?
Yes, there are a number of interesting directions that people are looking at. One has to do with the use of music during dementia, because there's some evidence that playing people music from their adolescence can awaken more vivid memories and ground people's sense of orientation and who they are past when other stimuli are unable to do that. And secondly, in cases like anxiety and depression, where there are symptoms within spontaneous thought. So you maybe ruminate on something or get stuck thinking in a certain unhelpful way. And what's exciting is that, the possibility that you could just press play on a song and find yourself in a completely different thoughtscape, sort of jumpstart you in a different direction that could be helpful.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to work with several kids with autism and have seen that connection with music with them. Cody Lee, who won America's Got Talent several years ago, and his mother said she was just trying to expose him to anything and everything, and all of a sudden he sat down at the piano and then started singing. There's a young man here I know who's pretty much described as nonverbal, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, when any Rat Pack song comes on, he suddenly turns into "Luck Be a Lady Tonight." And he sounds just like them. He has the body movements and the whole bit. He literally becomes those people. And so again, that power of music.
Yeah, music is connected. It connects all these different parts of our brain that sometimes kind of aren't in conversation with each other. So when it's bringing together things like the areas that are subserving motor control, emotion, cognition, memory, learning, perception, and just getting those all to kind of interact has, many kind of downstream positive consequences.
Yeah, a few seconds of any song, as you just mentioned, can call back a city, a time, a person, or a feeling. And so you have a challenge for us the next time we listen to a song to do what?
Yes. So I think you should just take it easy on yourself. Let your mind wander a little, notice what comes to mind, and then talk about it with the people around you. I found this immensely illuminating with both my parents and my teenage children. It's gotten us through many a long road trip, because when you talk about what comes to mind when you listen to music, it's this kind of window behind someone's ears and into their interior experience. You'll often find that you share an imagining in a surprising way. And then when they diverge, it's also a really interesting point of entry into someone's experience.
All right, last question. If you had to hear the same song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would probably be, I have a child who's a musician, so it would be one of his songs for sure.
Oh, okay, that's good. I think I'm Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's the way of the world. All right. Thank you so much. This is so interesting. It's something that everybody can connect to. So thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You can find the book Transported wherever books are sold. And to learn more about Dr. Margulis and her research, visit greatdayhouston.com and we'll connect you.